Spartans, welcome back. It's your boy Leonidas here with another Road to Grandmaster episode number 4. In today's video, we look at Rameshbabu Praggnanandhaa from India. This young man at 18 years old just became the second place finisher in the 2023 World Cup, falling just short to the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Magnus Carlsen. On the way to that second place finish, he beat the number 2 and number 3 ranked players in the world, Hikaru Nakamura and Fabiano Caruana. This man has a bright future in the chess world, also qualifying for the candidates tournament for a chance to play against Ding Liren from China for the next year's Classical Chess Championship. While unlikely he does win, this man has been known to show up in big times and big places, and the pressure does not seem to get to him. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we dive into the game that made him a grandmaster. But as always, hold the line until next time. Peace. Pragg decides to open with the Roy Lopez. Black responds with a very interesting variation. The variation is called the Cosio defense. When you put this bishop out on the long diagonal, you fianchetto that bishop. The reason that this is a very interesting variation is because it is not very well used compared to the likes of the Berlin defense, the open defense, or the closed defense. The reason that Black wants to play this fianchetto here, they kind of want to avoid some of the well-trodden paths and potentially go for something a little bit more dynamic in the middle game. It is a little passive though, because the black knight that was on g8 doesn't really fight for the center here. They kind of just defend this knight here and maybe potentially block in the queen here. But these guys are 24 or 49 at this point, or 2500, so they do know what they're doing. After the fianchettoing of the bishop, White decides to try to put some pressure on that knight, try to take control of the center even more. Black responds by kicking that bishop out, and the reason that White backtracks and moves that bishop out of the way is because if White decides to take here, all of a sudden we have the advantage going extremely far into the black position, especially for an early game. It is only a 0.5 advantage for Black at this point, but at this point in the game you do not want to be down any sort of advantage at the very beginning, because you're not even gambiting anything, you're just playing something stupid. Because after Black would take here, White would try to continue to put some pressure in the center, defend this pawn here, but after take, it's just very ugly. White has this isolated pawn here, Black has these connected pawns here, and this is just a big glaring weakness for White to try to defend, and a big glaring weakness for Black to try to attack. Pragg is already starting to show that prowess that we love, because after the pawn gets pushed to a6 to try to kick that bishop out, the bishop falls back, and Black makes the mistake of putting that knight to e5. Why is that a mistake? Because after takes, and knight gets out, you see that White has a complete dominance over the central position. You have these two pawns creating a defensive fortress. You have this bishop that is healthy, you have this bishop that's healthy, you have this queen that's staring down an open file or a veiled open file, you have the ability to castle. All Black has really and their disposal is just castling. This bishop is blocked in, this queen is blocked in, this bishop is open, but this knight is in such a passive position that it really doesn't have any control of the center. It has control of this, but it's covered by this, and it's covered by this, and it's covered by this. White has established dominance early, and it continues, because after Black tries to push forward, White goes with the castle. Here comes Black, and this, ladies and gentlemen, was the beginning of the end for Moroni Luka. The reason that this is the beginning of the end is because you're pushing pawns and not pushing pieces. And I believe Moroni forgot about one thing. Enpassant, when the ability arises, is always forced, and it happens to be the best move. Enpassant, damaging the pawn structure, but more than that, it does more than that. It allows for White to sneak in, and now Black will never be able to castle. Black will never be able to castle, because obviously you can't castle through a check. White is completely safe with king safety. Black's king is stuck in the middle for a very, very long time. Black needs to counterattack right now, or else they're in danger of losing the game immediately. Black moves the pawn into the center. White responds with a queen to d3, connecting the rooks, which is good. But the computer actually wanted this queen onto a4 here, because it pins this pawn to the king with some potentially nefarious ideas in the future for White. Here comes Black, putting that bishop out to the e6 square, getting the bishops involved finally. Maybe it's a little too late, we'll have to find out. Here comes White. White puts some pressure on this bishop, putting the pressure on this f file as well with the rook. Say this bishop does get taken or this pawn gets taken. Now that rook is activated. Here comes the queen. Queen gives a check and simultaneously attacking this pawn. It might look like it's a free pawn, and potentially it's very scary with this bishop looking down this diagonal as well. But all white has to do is move the king over, and the king is completely safe. White still has a 1.3 advantage on the eval bar, even though they are tied with 2 pawns apiece and a knight. Black is trying to find counterplay. After takes, rook slides over, queen slides over, but there's nothing that is working, because after this bishop gets pushed out here comes the rerouting. There's mate in 1 on the board. If black doesn't address it, black decides to block this mate in 1. But white is still in control because the knight jumps in and it forces this bishop trade, because if the bishop does not take this knight and the king decides to slide over here, it will be mate on the next move because these two are blocked by the knight. This is blocked by the bishop, and it forces black to do something that they did not want to do. They want to take, and after they take, here comes the rook sliding over, because obviously you don't want your rook getting taken. White just continues to put a stranglehold, forcing black to do their bidding by trading off the pieces, and the more pieces that you lose when you're counterattacking, the less chance you have to counterattack. White's advantage has gone up to 3.0. Black tries to have some sort of counterplay with the knight to d5, but white is just too quick with the bishops. The queen slides down, and this is where some of us would give up mate in 1, because we would take with the rook and we would lose with the queen to f1 checkmate. But these guys are not soon to be grandmasters for nothing, because they obviously will not take that. They will take with the correct piece, and then they will slide over with the queen to still protect from that mate in 1 threat. But black decides to just give up the game. They try to put pressure on the bishop, but it's just too little, too late. The bishop is now established in this chokehold with an outpost. The queen tries to slide over. The queen gives a check. Get to work with given checks, sliding over, given checks, taking this bishop, and now the queen is off the board. White is up 4 pieces of material, 4 points on the eval bar, and it is just game over after this. Black resigns, because there's really nothing for them to do. They could slide over here, but after take, it is 3 on 1 here and 2 on the other. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the tale of how Rameshbabu Praggnanandhaa from India became a Grand Master at the age of 12 years old, 10 months. This man has a bright future, soon to be candidate tournament participant, and more than likely going to be a world chess champion in the future. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. But as always, hold the line until then. Peace.